Okay, I'm here with my second test video. I am camping up in Big Bear, California, September 2nd, 2022. I'm only providing the location and the date to give some context because it's super hot in California. Obviously, we have great sun, so, you can compare that to where you might be using your solar panel. But again, I'm running a Euhomy 55qt. I have it set at about 32 degrees, and I've got my Rockpals 100w on the roof. I had the battery going, the Jackery 240, for most of the night. I plugged it in around 8:30 and let it run all night with the exception of maybe an hour. And when I woke up this morning, the Jackery is at about 66. I have the panel in it. So basically, obviously, when the refrigerator is at temp, it doesn't draw any power. It turns itself off. That's why the output is what, 1 watt or whatever it's showing. The input on very first morning sunlight is over 40%. It's creeped up to 67% in the few minutes that I've had it plugged in. I suspect before the middle of the day it'll be back at 100 and cruising along, keeping that fridge going. So my first test, I had it set at 0 degrees. Now I have it set at 32, so it doesn't require as much battery usage, which if you're camping, if you don't really need a freezer, just set it to use as a refrigerator, and it'll draw less power. Your battery will obviously last longer, and it'll take less time to get your battery back up to 100 during daylight. It's now about 10:20 in the morning. Better sunlight, obviously. Have it angled on my windshield with input of 62. 43 watts outgoing, not only into the fridge, but I'm recharging one of my little portable batteries, holding steady at 67%. So, final thoughts on the Jackery 240 with a 100-watt panel. I have the Rockpals foldable 100-watt panel powering the Euhomy 55qt fridge. It worked great. That first day I stayed in camp and had the panel positioned in an optimal way to take in at least 65% or 65 watts of sunlight, and it kept the battery at 100 by the evening. So when I went to bed that night and had the refrigerator plugged into the Jackery 240, it started out at 100% that night, woke up the next day, and it still had 66% left. Day two, was cloudy, and I left it inside my windshield facing the sun, but because it was cloudy and because it was behind my windshield, it didn't take in that much power. When I got back to camp, by that evening my battery was down to 22%. I had to run the car for a little while to get it up above 50% so that I could leave it plugged into the fridge overnight. And when I woke up the next morning, it was down to about 11%. I went out for a couple hours, came back, and it was down to 2%. So I had to plug the fridge into my truck and start it up. So because you do run the risk of either having a cloudy day and not being able to get good enough solar power from your panel, or if you're just not around in camp and you cannot optimally position your solar panel because you either have to put it away because you're not there, or like I did, put it in your windshield, you're not necessarily going to be there to get this back up to 100% so that you can power your fridge at night when there's no sunlight. So because of that, I did get a Jackery 500, which should solve that problem. And final closing comments are that I am not sponsored by Jackery. I'm not sponsored by Rockpals or Euhomy. I did buy these, just ordered the case for this too, very handy. But because of that issue, if you live in a place or going out camping where it's gonna be sunny the entire time, and you know you're gonna be staying near your campsite, So you can mess with your solar panel to make sure you're charging this back up to 100% before the end of the day. The 240 or the, what I think is the 290 or the 300 model is probably sufficient. If you're going to be out all day, then I would, or you think you're not going to be in sunny weather, then you're going to need a bigger one or a bigger battery source to ensure that a 55-quart fridge stays running and your battery has enough power at the end of the day when you go to bed to keep that fridge going overnight. That's it. Thanks.